Good evening, afternoon, everyone. This is Jim Laird joining you live from Grand Pacifica, Nicaragua. And I think Dr. Stillman is somewhere in the Northwest United States. Would that be correct?
Dr. Stillman woke up at his friend Ben Greenfield's house and went to do a cold polar bear plunge in the Spokane River, and now is back in Moscow, where he spent the last couple of days visiting friends.
So do you have are you automatically handed like mushroom coffee and like a one of those red light things that comes into your ear? Is there like a whole bunch of like sequences you go through as soon as you get out of bed at Ben Greenfield's house?
No, there's not.
No,
but I will tell you, if you've got the time and you're so inclined, there's a lot of gear, not more than fits in one room, that one can spend one's time on. It's really fun going to visit Ben. We had a great time. So
okay, good. Well, I'm glad. That's great. And so you've been kind of a traveling gypsy here, and so have I. I basically have gone driven down through Central America. Now I'm here in Nicaragua, which you will be joining me here shortly for a retreat. And
5 days we'll be down.
5 days. Thank you, Larry Dyson. Happy New Year to you too. I actually saw Larry in Florida before I left for Nicaragua. So good to see you too, Larry. Dr. Stillman and I wanted to get on here today and kind of give you, it's the New Year's. People are, wanted to make changes in their life, that whole kind of deal. And we just kind of wanted to give you an overview of what we've been up to, particularly in our Fundamentals of Wellness coaching masterclass, so to speak. We've obviously added, we're doing a lesson or a class or something every week that if you're on your email list, you get access to. We've added a ton of coaching to it. We've added a ton of accountability. We have basically an accountability app that keeps you accountable daily, so you can check in. That's a great question, Mike. Did you have a liver smoothie at Ben's house?
No liver smoothie this time, Mike.
Kidney, heart, spleen?
No organ meats were consumed.
No organ meats. Okay.
Over the course of the evening.
I did have a mean ceviche this morning, though, but
nice.
But basically, we've added all this stuff to the Fundamentals of Wellness, our course. And the thing we've noticed, I've noticed anyways, Dr. Stillman has added coaching not only to the coaching we have a coaching program, but we've also added coaching to the medical side of the practice, which is really most people that come to us that are struggling, it's death by a million paper cuts, right? They basically have all these little things that they're doing that add up to this colossal thing.
Absolutely.
So, really, for most people that I've dealt with in the last 30 years of my career, it comes down to fundamental habit change and changing who you are as a person, changing your habits, changing your identity, learning about trade-offs. And that's pretty much what we do, is we educate people on, okay, if you're going to do this, yeah, that's great, but there's the pluses and minuses, all that. So, is there anything you wanted to add to that, Dr. Stone?
Yeah, I just think that, we get a lot of inquiries about everything we do, from practicing medicine to the coaching programs. Overwhelmingly, people are struggling with specific issues, and they're looking for a magic bullet solution to those issues. They often end up spending an enormous amount of time and money, not to mention their vitality in a way, trying to find these solutions, chasing these solutions within the practice. We call this shiny object syndrome. What about the this? What about the that? What about this other protocol, this other thing? And there's value in all of it. To be very clear, Jim and I like to say there's no rules, only tools. And I tried to find out who said that. I know Bill Hartman's who you got it from, but I can't find an attribution for that. And we also like to say small hinges swing big doors. And what we found to be most impactful for people is that when we have time with them to help them understand their wellness and not their illness, that's when wellness happens and illness fades into the background of life. And that, I think, is the biggest misconception that most people are dealing with. And how we created these coaching programs was with exactly that in mind. And we see, I see people still really struggling with the world post 2020 and the events thereof. They're struggling to find community. They're struggling to find stability. Increasingly, they're struggling economically. They feel often alienated from society. And they also feel like many of the people they look to for guidance and information in health and wellness, they no longer can trust them. And that, many people may be thinking, oh, well, he must be talking about the conventional doctors. Not at all. I'm talking about conventional doctors, integrative doctors. Many of you are wondering, where am I supposed to go for answers? How am I supposed to get results? Particularly as the world continues to change, people are being pushed online. They're being pushed into a digital culture. They're being pushed into virtual work environments. Everything is changing very rapidly, and it only promises to accelerate with AI. And we see this distracting people from time-honored truths, time-tested truths of what it means to be healthy, what it means to be well, and how to get the results that you want, which also, by the way, has to start with a conversation of what results should you want, and what does it look like when you arrive at that destination, and should you even want the results you think you want? We cover that a lot in the coaching programs. And yeah, I mean, that's the key thing. We see this over and over again with people who are wondering about, well, how can we help them? Is this the right program for them? And I also wanted to spend a little time unpacking kind of what we see going on in health and wellness, because you're all trying to navigate this space. And I think that I myself am overwhelmed by the number of opportunities I have to learn, to expand my own knowledge, to gather new information or put new tools in my toolbox to serve patients. And, that's my full-time job. I can only imagine how overwhelming it is for people who can't take the time that I can afford to take to sift through all the information that they're being deluged with. And that deluge of information is only going to get worse because AI is only now coming into its own. We are seeing unprecedented amounts of information just being pumped out that's totally derivative. And sadly, Jim and I see it, and we know it for what it is because of our experience, but you don't necessarily know that. And a lot of people I think are going to, in the coming years, fall for narratives of health that are truly just people repeating erroneous information that's flawed, either because the data was corrupted in its collection, or it was genuinely, truly spurious and fraudulent, or because it's been misinterpreted and it's being misapplied, or they're misapplying it. They think this applies to them, but really they're not. It's not true for them. So all of that I see challenging people in 2024 now. And that's part of why we offer programs with people. And what we're really here to do is help people gain clarity in a world where there's an enormous amount of noise, confusion, competing ideas, competing narratives, and help people get clarity on what they should actually do.
And the difficult thing about all of this is it's very hard to really help someone with where they're at unless you really get to know them. And the only way you get to know them is by talking to them, right?
Absolutely.
Because once you get to know people and you know your situation and the context, a lot of times, it's beyond food. It's beyond, some of the daily habits. A lot of times it's mental, emotional, spiritual stress, and you really only get to know that when you talk to people over a consistent long-term basis. And then what people need to do, like what somebody needs to do in the beginning with their exercise routine or their diet, might be really simple at first, and then you have to change it. You have to adjust the training. You have to do this, and that can only be done over time. And then
Absolutely.
A lot of times people will get really fancy when they haven't done the fundamentals. It's like, somebody comes to me and says, hey, I'm not seeing the results that I want. Well, so I told you eat a protein at every meal. Are you eating a protein at every meal? No. Okay. Well, why not? Because I just haven't done that. Well, I'm not getting the results that I want. What about this thing? And what about that thing? Well, you haven't done the basic thing that I told you to do first. Then why do we need to move on? So, when you work with somebody over a long period of time, you can develop that relationship and you can reinforce a lot of these things. And a lot of people aren't going to do and comply right away. That's just not how it works. It usually takes a few times, or maybe somebody needs to hear me explain it to somebody else in a different way. Right. So,
Absolutely.
Bill Hartman always talks about, don't you get sick and tired of answering the same question over and over? And he says, no, it's just another opportunity for me to get better at explaining it. And so he's like, I always take, when somebody asks me a question, I look at it as another opportunity to answer the question in a better way. And so that's a lot of the programs that we have. We like doing them over a long period of time because, and here's the thing too, if you have a period of time, like when I had my gym, somebody would come in that was going through a really hard time, you know, we're there to help you through that. The community's there to help you through that, and for you to listen, or for you to vent, and for us to talk. And that's really important, to have a group of people that can help you through a difficult time, because, you know, you might be doing flipping, you know, you might be rolling along just fine. And then all of a sudden, you know, there's a death in the family, or somebody loses their job, or something happens, and all of a sudden your health spins out of control. And if you have people there to help keep you accountable, it's going to make things a lot easier for you.
Absolutely. Yes. And I think that there's a real temptation right now for people to really just engage in information overload. And we see this all the time, people coming into the coaching programs who have listened to all the podcasts, read all of the books, gone to all the summits, you know, read all the books. And oftentimes they're the most resistant to our recommendations of anyone on the call. And oftentimes they get the worst results. And that's, to me, is a direct correlation. And I think that, you know, as I said before, as AI gets going, as people create these content machines that are just endlessly churning out fake content that's derivative based on what other people have already said, whether or not it's true or not, what you see going to happen is more and more people are trying to provide you with courses and content, but people still struggle to get the results, or fail to get the results.
I think a lot of people are just scared of simplicity, you know.
Absolutely.
You know, like a lot of people are like, well, it has to be more complicated than this. It can't be this simple, right? And I think a lot of people get like, it can't be this simple. There's no way it can be this basic.
I also think there's a resistance to what they have to give up to embrace simplicity. You know, let's say right now I'm in the Pacific Northwest. It's not warm outside. It's mid 40s right now. Oftentimes in this latitude, it's teens, single digits, or negative, particularly at night, particularly with wind chill. And people say, well, I don't want to deal with the discomfort of spending any time outside. And I say, look, the data is very clear. The more time you spend outside, the longer you are likely to live, and the fewer diseases you are likely to have. And, you know, you may want to live an indoor, artificially lit existence, you know, dining on processed food 3 times a day, but this isn't compatible with the goals you have. And this is where it's so unique, the opportunity we have right now with people coaching them virtually to help them have these conversations with themselves. And oftentimes on the coaching calls where we have multiple people on, they all need to hear the same material. That's why we started. We noticed that the 80% of what we were saying every day was repetition. We might say the same thing 4, 5, 6, 10 times, depending on how many one-on-one consults you or I had, which is where the power of the group really shines. And then as well, you know, you mentioned people get a lot out of hearing us solve the problems of somebody else right there on the call. So
let's talk a little bit about, you know, one of the things that people really love is testing, right? And you know, gathering data, gathering information. That's one of the reasons we love the Oura Ring, because you can wear it in airplane mode, and it gives us lots of data. And but you know, over the last 6 months, you've really gotten into the HTMA.
Yes,
testing,
last year and a half, really.
Yeah. Tell me about what has really, like, why has that become such a powerful tool for you? Because I know you did NutriValves, you've done all sorts of things. Like, what's got you so excited about the HTMA?
It's the single best test I have at this point, as far as taking a deep look into someone's medical, their state of well-being and fitness. Because there's so many patterns we can see in there that tell us about their lives, tell us about their diets, and tell us about what they actually need to do in order to change their state and get the results that they want. And that's why we're doing more and more of it, and why I'm relying on it more and more. And I also compared it to other testing that I was doing and found that, you know, I could spend the money, or the patient could spend the money on the extra testing, but oftentimes there wasn't anything abnormal on that other testing for me to go after with supplements or lifestyle changes or biohacks or even drugs. And so why would I get this additional testing when it was just adding a huge economic burden to the patient, right?
Just so people know, the HTMA is hair tissue mineral analysis testing.
Right.
And so why do you like that over like blood work? Like what advantages are there to doing HTMA?
Convenience. You cut your hair and you cut a little lock of your hair, about a tablespoon. You put it in an envelope, you send it to a lab, and it just gets run, and then it gets delivered to us electronically, and we get in touch with the person and tell them that it's back. And that one of the exciting announcements we have today is that we are going to be adding someone as a team member to do these in-house at Stillman Wellness. So this is somebody who will be available really all over, including the United States and internationally, who will be running these tests and consulting with people one-on-one, which is a limitation that we had. I can see your dog. Yeah,
we're almost saying hi. Right. Sorry.
So yeah, we're really excited about that. It's one of the announcements we have to share with you guys today, and why we created coaching programs in the first place was that we saw a huge gap between what people were getting in the functional medicine world and what people really needed. And all that comes back to what Jim and I have been talking about the last 15 minutes, which is essentially the typical model in functional and integrated medicine is that you schedule an appointment with the doctor. It's weeks to months out. You see them, they do a very comprehensive history, they do an exam, they order some labs, they recommend a number of supplements. You then have some kind of follow-up to review the labs. And this is exactly what we do in the executive physical, for the record. But you get the labs, you get the more supplement recommendations, medication recommendations, maybe further labs are recommended, and then you don't see them for another 3 to 4 months. And maybe it's 6 months. And maybe you don't get to see them again at all. And what I found over and over again is people had gone to other functional medicine providers, followed this recipe, become disillusioned and dissatisfied. And it's not that those practitioners are not doing great work. In many cases, they are. But particularly for the tough cases, they need more touch points. And when you really get into what really works, a lot of it's behavior change and dietary change, and it's consistency of things like taking supplements. And a lot of it, too, is psychological. Getting into someone's mindset and how they think about their illness and how they think about their life and their day and their emotions and their relationships. And you just can't do that in an initial consult, a follow-up, and then maybe a 3 or 4 month follow-up. You have no opportunity to really get to know that person. And that's why we have a whole team. And that's why we often would see that people were on their labs, X, Y, and Z were wrong. Well, if they'd come into the coaching program and we'd had an opportunity to talk to them, we could have figured out that X, Y, and Z were wrong with their lifestyle. And that was translating into these problems in their labs. So there we preempt having to even pay for the lab, let alone the time spent reviewing the lab with a physician or another healthcare provider. And we just go straight into coaching, and the coaching gets the person the result that they're looking for in the first place. So that's why we created the coaching programs. Now, that does leave a gap in terms of lab testing, which we've filled with people coming into the medical practice and seeing me as their doctor and my nurse practitioners as their nurse practitioner and Michelle, our nurse, as their nurse. And now we're going to have this hair tissue mineral analysis person available to people who are in the coaching programs. And that's going to be another value of being in the fundamentals of wellness is that, and I want to be really clear with people about why we're doing it this way. I see so many people running around and getting labs and having consults and not getting results that I refuse to be part of the trend. I don't know why this trend bothers me so much. I think it bothers me because I see people wasting their time, wasting their money, and letting their vitality slip away as they focus on the shiny objects. I mentioned shiny object syndrome earlier, when the truth is they've got to focus on the fundamentals. They've got to dial those in. They've got to really engage with the knowledge and understanding of their illness and their disease. Then you can add labs. Then you can add customized supplement protocols. Then you can add things like peptide stacks and hormones and biohacks and all the cool stuff that I love to do that, Ben Greenfield and I will talk about for hours. But until you've done that, I don't really think most people have any business ordering labs because they don't even know if that lab is going to solve their problem. And this is where a lot of the, what's ended up happening is people have an incentive to sell people labs. And it's very easy to do. I get all these ads now on Instagram, buy this lab, buy this. And I know that the supplement kit's coming along with it. And I don't have any disrespect for these people. I'm sure that they're helping some people, but particularly for the tough cases, they're just throwing good money away. And then a lot of regular folks, they're putting the cart before the horse. They're getting the labs when they need to really understand what's wrong with their lifestyle first.
So basically, if you are a member of the Fundamentals of Wellness or one of our coaching programs, you can get an HTMA done, which comes with a consult and a custom supplement program for an additional fee, right?
Correct.
So basically, what's going to be happening here on the 6th of January, the price of the Fundamentals of Wellness will be increasing. Okay.
Yes.
So what comes with the Fundamentals of Wellness basically is you sign up. We have coaching programs. Dr. Stillman and I coach twice a month together. I do a coaching call every Tuesday night. And then I do an additional coaching call on a Saturday. So you get all those coaching calls that are recorded. You can always email us with questions. We will answer those questions. Plus everything that's in the course, which we do a new lesson just about every week. There's all sorts of information there. You get a daily accountability app. If you sign up now, you also get a one-on-one consultation onboarding call with me. You get the daily accountability app, which is free, which is basically going to send you your daily checklist of things that you need to do every day. And it's going to send you a weekly survey of how you're doing, so we can kind of keep an eye on you. And then in the next few weeks, we're going to open it up so that if you want to get an HTMA test, we can do that as well. And the price will be increasing here on the 5th at midnight. And if you want to try it out, we're going to do a special code for you today. All caps, Jim and 50 will give you 50% off the first month. And then it goes to the regular price. But that way you can get in there, you can try it, you can see what it's all about. There's a strength and conditioning component to it. I mean, we've got so much content in there. It's insane. If you come on the Q&As, I can customize the content just for you. So that's pretty much what we have going on right now in our program.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, Jim, because I want to explain to people why we created it, how we created it, and how we went about deciding basically how much to deliver to people. Because what we found when we forayed out into the world of online coaching, particularly group coaching and courses, is people were telling us to charge anywhere from $3,000 to $15,000 for a 12-week program. You can do that. Other people are doing it. I'm sure they're getting great results for people. But, Jim and I looked at the number of people who come to us, and then we looked at, the way that we how many coaching calls we could afford to do each month. And we thought, we could help a lot more people who need it if we don't charge such an extreme price. We actually have a testimonial here that I want to read from a guy named Charles Scholl, who's in the program. He said, "First off, I just have to say that I'm completely floored with how much value is in this program and how much time you guys spend in the Q&A calls." And that's the that's the bottom line here, is we created a massive course for you guys, and we priced it very reasonably compared to the value that's there. We also made it because our real thing is we just want to get people results. We don't have to charge an arm and a leg for what we do in order to make a living. And we didn't want to charge an arm and a leg just because we could. Why is it set up for results? You get all the information you could possibly want. You get 7 Q&A calls a month. Many of these run well over an hour. 5 are with Jim, 2 are with me. You get the Fundamentals of Wellness course, which Jim and I shot about a year ago, and is all the fundamentals, the stuff that we just absolutely need people to do to reliably get results. And then I said to myself, there's a lot of content that we didn't include in the fundamentals that's very context specific. So for example, somebody who's got GI issues still needs the fundamentals, but I have all this extra stuff I can add to help them understand where to start as far as their journey towards better GI health. And I don't think we've recorded that one yet, Jim. That might be one in the new year. But we have so many webinars in what we call Dr. Stillman's Secrets on this type of thing: gut health, brain health, cognitive function, problems if you've got, say, dopamine receptor issues. We did a whole webinar on that. And then you've got Jim Laird's Strength and Conditioning Secrets, which is just a gold mine of information for people who need, and this is frankly everyone. I mean, everyone, and I didn't really appreciate this until the last couple of years as I got more into the fitness side of the healthcare world. Everyone needs to engage with strength and conditioning, because if you don't, it's one of the biggest things or greatest contributors to early death, disability, and disease. And exercise alone is one of the greatest healers that we have. So we created this whole program that gives you all the information you could want. And if something is not in there and you join the course, first of all, you're going to get access to all the webinars we're going to do this year. And second, if you say, hey, I really wish you would do a Thursday morning class on, I don't know, elbow pain, we will happily schedule that in. And Jim and I have talked about this. As we add more value in, we are going to raise the price. And we've got a target. Essentially, we said, okay, we can take exceptional care of the people in this program if we have only 10 to 20 people joining per month. And that limits it to about 100 to 120, well, 120 to 240 people per year. I'm really inclined to keep it on the lower end of that because I want to keep the quality high because, as I said before, we want to get people results. And so the price increase now is, I think, a 20% increase. I don't know when we'll do the next one. It will depend on, frankly, how many people join. But getting in earlier is going to be well worth people's while because it gives them a ton of access to both of us that otherwise is only available to people who sign up for something like our executive physical, which is $3,800 now, or for an annual plan at the medical practice, which doesn't include all this stuff with Jim and already starts at $3,000 for the year instead of, the current price for Fundamentals of Wellness, which ends up being about $1,500 for the year. So that's what we're up to. We're excited to take care of many of you in the new year. We look forward to your comments, your questions, your concerns. Jim, anything else you want to add?
Well, I think one of the main things that we do that sets us apart from a lot of people is there is a lot of information, but we also simplify it and make it extremely practical for you, right?
100%.
Because
I can't tell you how many rabbit holes I've seen people fall down and spend hours listening to podcasts and thousands of dollars on supplements. And I've done the same thing in my practice. I've been my own laboratory. I can't tell you how much money on gear, labs, conferences, mentorships, books. I mean, I've probably given away a whole truckload of books to Goodwill and health books over the years because I've moved too many times to keep them all. And even if I kept them all, I'd need a 5,000 square foot house. I don't want a house that big. But we just keep it so real and so simple. It almost saddens me when people chase the shiny object instead of jumping into the calls, jumping into the program, and getting the value that we've packed into it, because we'll save you unbelievable amounts of time, energy, and the best thing is you'll get the results ASAP instead of, years from now, which is how long it takes a lot of people to figure out what they're really missing. That oftentimes when you're talking to us, we get in minutes to, a handful of conversations.
Well, and I think too that one of the main things that we do is giving you the skills to teach yourself and to take care of yourself, right? Like
Yes.
That's a learning about what you need to do to take care of yourself, which I think is super important.
Absolutely.
We want you to be self-sufficient, and we want you to be self-regulating. So
we really want you to be your own, in some ways, your own doctor. being your own doctor is dangerous. I don't really recommend it. But the truth is, the level of critical thinking that most people have already done on their problem when they come to see me isn't very high, which is not necessarily, I mean, I'm not trying to bash anybody or talk down to anyone. This is very natural. But it's so easy for us to teach you the system that we use to troubleshoot people's problems. You'll hear it on the calls over and over and over again. We're asking the same 100 questions thousands of times. Thousands of times. And we've had so many people come back and say, that call made me think about my problems in a whole new way. Do you think I could try this or try that? And we'll say, yes, absolutely, you could try that. Dave says, amen. Thank you for distilling the information down to the essence. We appreciate you, Dave. We're glad to be helping you. So anything else, Jim?
I think that's it. So we'll be happy to answer any of your questions. Maybe we'll hang out here for a second and see if anyone has questions. But
if anyone has questions, just drop them in the comments.
Yeah, we'll be happy to answer your questions. Dr. Stillman will be down here with me in Nicaragua here very soon.
We have a retreat.
And we have a retreat, which is going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to be a blast.
It's going to be a blast. So there's also going to probably be the opportunity to come down here and hang out with me if you'd like and get yourself a reset if you need yourself to get a little break.
Right. I can't tell people how much I would recommend that, because I think that, flying into Nicaragua, staying with Jim for a week at the beach, you could do all your remote work the same from Nicaragua as you can from here.
Mm-hmm.
And training in person with Jim for me was life-changing. It's part of why I was so excited to add Jim Laird's Strength Secrets to the Fundamentals of Wellness program. Because, and this only becomes more and more apparent to me, is that people do not engage in strength training in a healthy way. The people who are really big on training oftentimes end up destroying their joints, their joint capsules, their bodies. They come to us and they're an absolute disaster of pain, orthopedic issues, muscle issues. They live with pain every single day until sometimes they get a joint replacement. And then the people who don't do any strength training get into the other, get into another problem, right? Which is that they get totally deconditioned. They have no muscle mass. They have no range of motion. They get to 65, 75, 85, and they're falling all over the place, breaking hips, breaking wrists, having really horrible injuries from normal everyday life. And then you get into strength training the way Jim teaches it. And number one, it doesn't hurt. You don't wake up every day after you go to the gym and think, I feel like I've just been beaten, which is my experience with weight training before I met Jim. And then it becomes fun. And then you get results, which is deeply rewarding. And going to training with Jim for a week for me would be a no-brainer if I hadn't already trained with Jim for a year.
And if you feel good after you train and you don't feel like crap and you get results, the chances of you actually continuing to do that are going to be very high. Absolutely. So Marcella, where do you go to sign up? For the first month discount, I put the links here in the chat. If you can't find them, I will go put them in the YouTube description here after we're done. If not, just go to stillmanwellness.com and scroll down and it'll say join, and go to Fundamentals of Wellness, hit join, and then go to the checkout page and then just enter JIM in all caps and then 50 and put that in the checkout, and it's going to give you the 50% off the first month.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
Dave asks, did you enjoy the plunge in the river this morning? I did. The Spokane River was 33 degrees or something this morning. And Ben and I, and Ben's funny, he posted to social media that he was going to be at the Spokane River at this specific spot. So there were probably 20, 25 people there this morning, all ready to jump into the river with us. And we had a great time. And then we went back to his house and jumped in the hot tub and smoked some cigars and had some breakfast. And it was just a great morning, a great way to start the day, start the year.
I can't imagine you getting in the Spokane River, because I remember you trying to get in 70-degree water in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
and it being cold for you. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big baby about the cold water when but you and I talk about this.
Yeah.
Because we've both spent a lot of time in very cold water. My record for cold water is I did at least 15 minutes at one point in water that was freezing. I had to break the ice to get in.
Yeah.
So I can do.
Yes. Yeah. Well, especially when there's other people there, you can get yourself riled up.
Well, the reality of it is that if I didn't go into a cold plunge with Ben, he would never let me live it down.
That's correct. You would never be able to go on his show again.
It was invigorating. I did enjoy it.
Absolutely. Oh, that'll wake you up, no doubt. John McDonald just signed up. Thank you so much. Make sure you sign up for the app. You go into the course. You go to watch this first. Sign up for the app, then book your call with me, and we'll get you started. We'll get you rolling. You can actually get onto the coaching call tomorrow night with me.
Jim, the HTMA. Jim asks, will the HTMA program cost be approximately the same as the executive physical program? So for people who don't know, our executive physical is $3,800. The HTMA program that we're coming out with through Stillman Wellness doesn't involve one-on-one time with me, which means we're able to make it much more affordable. And so I'm still working up the numbers there, but it's actually not just going to include the consult and the test. It will actually also include your supplements for 3 months, which is what we recommend the supplements for. And the idea there is to just make it simple, make it efficient. There's not really a good reason to get a hair tissue mineral analysis test if you're not going to follow through on the supplement side. So we decided to bundle them in and save people the time and a little bit of money on the supplement side as well. Yep. Pamela, great to hear from you. Pamela says, thank you both for keeping it simple. Love your approach to health and wellness. We hope you're doing well in 2024, and we look forward to seeing you soon, Pamela. All right. On that note, I'm going to go have some late lunch here in Moscow, Idaho.
All right. Well, thanks, Docs. Good to see you. And I hope you have a good week. And good to see you, Jim, Mr. Hurst. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Hopefully when you guys sign up, I'll see you on the Q&A. I think, do you have a Q&A? Do we have a Q&A? You do. Is it the first and the fourth?
It's the second and the fourth,
isn't it? The second and the fourth. Okay. So my Q&A is tomorrow night, and then yours, it'll be the following week. So, all right. Have yourself a good night, Doc. Good to see you. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and hope to see you in the course.